Uh, Dollar Jud.
Daled Yud.
Okay. Someone who went west overseas with his wife, and then came with his wife and his children, and said that this is the woman who went overseas with him, and these are her children, need not bring proof concerning the woman or concerning the children. If she said she died, and these, if she he said she died, and these are her children, he must bring proof concerning the children, but he need not bring proof concerning the woman. If one says, I married a woman overseas, this is she and these are her children, he must bring proof concerning the woman, but he need not bring proof concerning the children. If he says she died and these are her children, he must bring proof concerning the woman and the children. Excuse me. A man may not be may be alone with two women, but one woman may be alone with two men. Judge Shimon says, even if one man may be alone with two women when his wife is with him, he may sleep with them in an inn because his wife is with him, watches him. A man may be alone with his mother or with his daughter, and he may sleep with them with bodily contact. If they grew up, he sleeps in her bed, her clothes, and he sleeps in his clothes. Okay.
Okay. Lolim Ilmad Adam Ravak Sofrim. Okay, so now we're talking about until the end of the Masechta, we talk about professions, things that people can and cannot and should not do. So a single man uh, should not teach little kids. Why? Because their mothers come to pick them up from Gun, and he's going to be hanging out with the mothers, which is a problem. If he's married, then says this Tana, it's okay because he's already got a wife. But if he's single, we don't want him mingling with all the mothers. Lo tilmad isha sofrim, and also a woman should not teach these children. Why? Because because their fathers also come to drop them off. So you want somebody who basically you want a married man to look after these men, says the Tana. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Af mi she'ein lo isha lo yilmad sofrim. Now, someone who doesn't have a wife. Now, that was what we just said before, you'd think, but so we must see that Rabbi Eliezer is talking about even a married man whose wife is not in the building should not be teaching them because he's not his wife keeps him honest. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, the only person who's allowed to teach the children is a married man whose wife is in the building. Okay. Yud Daled. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Lo yireh ravak behima v'lo yishenu shnei ravakim b'talis achas. So Rabbi Yehuda is concerned about unmarried men that their urges may get the better of them, so they shouldn't be looking after animals. I don't even want to go there. But v'lo yishenu shnei ravakim, and they shouldn't sleep two unmarried men should not sleep under one blanket. Okay, because they may come to sin. Chachamim Materian, they say that this is not a concern. Most normal people are not going to be pulled after bestiality or homosexuality just because they happen to be alone with the animals or sharing a blanket with another man. Kol she'isko im hanashim lo yisyached im hanashim. Now, um, what we're saying over here is that in the previous Mishnah we said that a man may not be alone with two women, but apparently it's okay to be with a larger number of women because they're not all going to cover for each other. But according to this Tana over here, if somebody his business is dealing with women, such as a perfume salesman, um, there you can come up with many other things. He cannot be in yichud with any number of women because being that they're all kind of chummy with him, they will there's this concern that they will all cover for each other if anyone does anything naughty. Okay. V'lo yulamed Adam es beno umnus bein hanashim, and furthermore, it's not a good idea to coach your son to have his work among women. Rabbi Meir Omer Leolam Yelamed Adam Espino Umanus Nekia V'Kala. A person must always teach his son a craft that is clean and easy. And it doesn't matter what it is, Just daven to Hashem because Hashem is the one who's got the power to give wealth and property. She'ein omnus she'ein ba'aniyos va'ashiros. There's no profession that where everyone is successful and nobody struggles. Shelo anius min ha'umanus velo ashiros min ha'umanus. It's not poverty doesn't come from your profession, nor does wealth come from your profession. Ela hakol lefi zchuso. Everything is according to a person's zechus. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Ra'isa miyamecha chaya va'of sheyesh lahem umanus. Have you ever seen a bird or a wild animal that have a profession? V'hein mispanesin shelo b'tzar. They get everything they need without any trouble. V'alo lo nivreu el l'shamasheni. And they were created only to serve me as a human. Right? They have no particular purpose in creation other than being there for people. And I was created to serve my creator. Should it not be a kal v'chomer that if they get their stuff without any trouble, surely I should also get ela hare osi ma'asai. My deeds have not lived up to scratch. V'kipachti es parnasasi, and it's only my own fault that I don't get parnasa from mina shamayim. Abba Gurion ish tzaidan ish omer mishum Abba Guria. Okay, so we have the person called Abba Gurion from Tzaidan, and he says in the name of a person called Abba Guria, which sounds the same, but it's a different person, obviously. Lo yalamed Adam es beno chamar gamal sapar sapan ro'e v'chen vani she'umnosahem umanos listim. So the following professions are people who will tend to cheat or steal. What are they? A donkey driver, a camel driver, a hairdresser, a sapan is a sailor. Is that right? A sapan is a sailor? Yeah, so sapan is from a sfina, right?
Right.
And a shepherd or a shopkeeper. All of these things are professions where people tend to cheat. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishmo, however, Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says, I've got a different Masorah from Abba Guria. He says, Hachamarin Ruban Rishayim. Yes, the donkey drivers are mostly bad, but Gamalim Ruban Kasherim. But the camel drivers are good. Why? Because most of them are okay people because they're traveling through deserts, and therefore traveling through the desert keeps your mind in the right place that you should be davening to Hashem to get you through this desert okay. Hasapanin, Ruban Chasidim, and the sailors are on a high level. From Kasherim we go to Chasidim, the pious and devout. Why? Because on the sea is even more of a danger. So people who are on the sea are constantly davening and saying, Hashem, get us past the sea. Tov Sheba Rof'im leGehenim, famous saying that the best of doctors is destined for Gehenna. Okay, lots of ink spilled about why a person would say this about doctors. One, that they always feel like they've got they've got the cures in their hands, so it leads to a certain arrogance. Or else it could be that if a doctor makes a mistake, it's in a pikuach nefesh situation. It could be that they're going to be liable for could be that they're liable for causing somebody else's death. That's a big thing to have on your head. Anyway, and the best of shochtim is a partner to Amalek. Why does he say this? Is because even if it's for kosher animals, the fact that you're in the habit of taking the life of animals is making you insensitive to bloodshed, and it calls him a shutaf la'amalek, that he's a partner to Amalek in terms of creating bloodshed. Anyway, it's pretty stark Musar there. Rabbi Noharai Omer. Forget any other profession. I'm just going to learn Torah. Okay, that's all I do. She'adam ochel mischar ba'olam hazeh, v'keren kayemes le'olam haba. I will. A person earns his reward in this world, and he still has the reward in olam haba. Ushar kol omnius ein oken. It's not so with other professions. Kashe'adam ba lidei choli or lidei zikna or lidei yisurin. If a person gets sick or old or is in pain. And now he can't do his work. He does if he doesn't work, he doesn't earn. So Aval Torah ain't okay. Not so with Torah. So it keeps him out of trouble when he's young. And it gives him hope in his old age. But Naruso Omer, what does it say about his youth? Hashem yachlifu koach. Those who hope to Hashem will keep growing in strength. B'ziknusu Omer od yinuvun b'seiva. It will keep flourishing in his old age. V'chein hu omer b'Avraham Avinu alav shalom. Avraham zaken v'Hashem berachis Avraham bakol. So Avraham was old, but Hashem blessed Avraham with everything. Matzinu she'asa Avraham Avinu es kol haTorah kola ad shelo nitna. We see that Avraham Avinu kept all of the Torah even before it was given. Shenemar Ekev asher shama Avraham bakoli v'shmar mishmarti mitzvosai v'chol kosav v'sorasai. Since because Abraham has listened to my voice and he's kept my laws and my mitzvahs and the chukim and the Torah side. So that's the source that Avraham Avinu kept the Torah even before it was given. Hadron alach maseches nashim maseches kiddushin v'hadron alach seder nashim siyum.
See,
So you want to have some meat today?
right back. Meat and music, right?
Mhm. Mm. Okay, and we get one more
Give 'em-
from, one Mishnah from Bava Kamma.
Okay.
All right. So complete switch of topic, of course. We've now moved into the Seder of Nezikin, which is about damages between basically laws between Adam v'lechavero. And we open up with an explanation of damages and different types of damages. Okay. So there are four primary types of damages. There's, says the Mishnah, there's the shore. So the shore is the ox. And when we say the ox, what we mean is an animal that does damage while walking. Okay, so also known as regel. Okay, so shore, when you see shore, we also see regel. So when a person, this is something that an animal is always doing. Animals always walk. And if an animal does damage while it's walking, that's usually a responsibility of the owner to make sure that his animal doesn't do any damage while it's walking. Okay, and then we have a boar. Now, but they're not mentioned, by the way, in the same order as we're going to deal with them in a second. I think it's just a mnemonic because shore and boar rhyme with each other. So shore and boar is the pit. Okay, this is the category of things that do damage by staying in their place. Okay, that's the boar. Mav'eh is the tooth. It's also known as shane. So mav'eh is one that grazes. So this is while if an animal is eating, so an animal doesn't eat as much as it walks, and so it'll have different responsibility levels for nezik of shen of the tooth. Vahever is the fire, which also burns property, destroys property, and it's the category of inanimate things that move. So, for example, if you had a rock or something or that fell off a roof and caused damage, that would be actually in the category of aish, because it's an inanimate thing that moved and caused damage. Okay. So now, why do we have to mention all four categories, and why each one of them must be teaching something new? So lo harei hashor ka harei hamalveh. So let's tackle the two things that an animal causes. There's the regel and there's the shane. Now, why do we have to teach both? Right. The difference is that when an animal is always walking, but it's not always eating. So if I had just taught about regel, I wouldn't have known Shane because okay, regel is something that's always done. Shane, maybe you don't have to pay anything for. Okay, therefore we have to teach Shane. So what? So let's teach Shane and Kal v'chomer. You'll know about regel. No, but Shane is different because when an animal eats, it gets a benefit. So the owner now has to feed his animal less because it ate somebody else's food. Whereas regel, there's no benefit. So if you just taught Shane, I'd think, oh, Shane, because it gets benefit. Regel, it doesn't get any benefit, so therefore you're not liable. So we have to teach both. Okay, so now that we know we need both of those, ולא זה וזה שיש בהן רוח חיים כהרי האש שאין בו רוח חיים. Okay, so now we go across to fire, and the difference being that it's that fire is not alive. So if you just taught the two cases of the ox, you wouldn't think fire because you think, okay, you're only liable for things that are alive, not for things that are inanimate. And if you just taught the fire, the inanimate things, then you wouldn't know about something that was alive. Okay. ולא הרי זה וזה שדרכן לילך ולהזיק כהרי הבור שאין דרכו לילך ולהזיק. And these three categories are not like a bore which just stays in place instead of the other ones move and the bore stays in place. So all of them were necessary to keep in to teach about so that we know that all of these things you're liable for. What's in common between them? Because these things tend to do damage. And you have a responsibility to watch them. So whoever it belongs to, they have the responsibility to make sure it doesn't do any damage. And if they do damage, so the person who caused damage, when he's found liable for causing the damage, he has to pay for it. And if he doesn't have the money, then he has to sell the best of his land in order to pay for it. Okay. And yeah, that's the end of the Mishnah.
Okay.
Right. We can go back to Kiddushin.
Go back
Gimel base.
again. Gimel base. If one says to a woman, you are betrothed to me on condition that I will give you 200 zuz, she's betrothed, and he gives it. On condition that I will give it to you from now until 30 days. If he gave it to her within 30 days, she is betrothed. If not, she is not betrothed. If he says, on condition that I have 200 zuz, she is betrothed, provided he has it. On condition that I will show you 200 zuz, she is betrothed, provided he shows it to her. If he showed it to her on the table, she is not betrothed. If he said, on condition that I have a base core of land, or she is betrothed, provided he has it, on condition that I have it in a specific place. If he has it in that place, that she is betrothed. If not, she's not betrothed. On condition that I will show a base core of land, she is betrothed, provided he will show it to her. If he showed it to her in a valley, she is not betrothed. Okay. One more. Reb Meir says any conditions which is not like the condition of the children of God and children of Reuben is not a condition, as it said. And Moses said to them, if the children of God and the children of Reuben will cross, and it is written, they will not cross zealously. But Kanina ben Gamliel says it was necessary for the matter to be stated, because otherwise it implies that even in the land of Canaan they will not inherit. Okay. Get to
Yeah.
Okay. So we have base Aleph. If one brought a gift from overseas and said it was written in my presence, but not, it was signed in my presence, or it was signed in my presence, but not, it was written in my presence, or all of it was written in my presence and half of it was signed in my presence, or half of it was written in my presence and all of it was signed in my presence, it's void. One says it was written in my presence and one said it was signed in my presence, it is void. If two say it was written in our presence and one says it was signed in my presence, it is void. If Yehuda ever validates it and one says it was written in my presence and two say it was signed in our presence, it's valid. If it was written by day and signed by day, or written by night and signed by night, or written by night and signed by day, it is valid. If it was written by day and signed by night, it is void. If Reb Shimon says validates it, for Shimon used to say all documents which are written by day and signed by night are void, except for Gittin. We write with anything with ink, with orpiment, with red pigment, with gum, with ferrous sulfate, or with anything which is lasting. We do not write it with liquids, nor with fruit juice, nor with anything which is not lasting. We will write it upon anything on the leaf of an olive tree or the horn of a cow, and he gives her the cow, or the land, hand of a slave, and he gives her the slave. And Rabbi Yosef the Gamaliel says, just lost. Amelia says, Galleon says, no, sorry. I forgot where I left off because this page just moved away from me. It was before. We do not write with liquids, but with fruit juice, or with anything which is not lasting. We write upon it anything on the leaf of an olive tree, on the horn of a cow, or he gives her the cow, or the hand of a slave, and he gives her the slave. And Yosef the Galilean says, we do not write on it on a living creature, nor on food. We do not write it on something attached to the ground, for if you wrote it on something attached,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Okay. Ksubos. Zayin Ches.
Okay. If bodily defects were upon her while she was still in her father's house, the father must bring proof that these defects came about after she was betrothed, and that his misfortune had caused it. If she entered the husband's authority, the husband must bring proof that she had these defects before she was betrothed, and that his acquisition was made in error. These are the words of Reb Meir. The comments, however, when does this apply in the case of hidden defects? In the case of exposed defects, he cannot make a claim. But if there is a bathhouse in the city, even in the case of hidden defects, he cannot make a claim because he examined her through his female relatives. As for a man whose bodily defects came about, he's not considered coerced to divorce his wife. Simon Ben Gamaliel says, when does this apply? In the case of minor defects. But in the case of major defects, he's coerced to divorce her. And then these are the ones who are coerced to divorce: a leper, one afflicted with offensive nasal smell, one who gathers, one who winds copper, and a tanner, whether they had been them before they were married or when they came after they were married. Concerning all of them, Amos said, even if he had stipulated with her, she could say, I thought I would be able to endure it, but now I cannot endure it. The sages, however, say she must endure it against her will, except the leper, because he causes it to decay. And once having the sit that a man Tana died, and I had a brother who was also a Tana. Say she can say, your brother I can endure, but you I cannot endure.
Yeah.
A woman.
No, that's
That's
it.
it. Oh,
Yeah.
everything. Additionally, Rabbi Yehuda said a person may stipulate a condition concerning a basket on the first day of Yom Tov and eat it on the second, and also a leg on the first day be eaten on the second, but the sages not agree with him. Rabbi Joseph Harkin says this: he leaves the prayers on Yom Tov and Rosh Hashanah, says fortify us, O Hashem, God on this Kodesh, whether it's today or whether it will be not tomorrow. And tomorrow it says whether it's today or whether it was yesterday, but the sages don't agree with him. So that last mission I just read was also from what it's called. You know, the whole thing with the, excuse me?
Adios.
No, the whole thing with the eggs. You know, with
Beitza?
pizza, isn't it? But you can eat an egg on the first day. You can't.
I'm not sure about that. Okay, anyway, carry on.
One was taken out by Gentiles by an evil spirit is only 4 cubits. If they brought him back, it is if he never left. If they took him to another town, they put him in a fold or a corral. Rabbi Azariah says he may traverse his entirety. Rabbi Shua and Akiva say he has only 4 cubits. It happened when they brought from Brandisson and the ship went out to sea. Rabbi Gamil and Rabbi Eliezer traveled the entirety. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Akiva did not move out of their 4 cubits because they wished to be tricked themselves.
Okay,
Once they did,
I can't.
that's it. Okay. And we have Michos. Because the Zion base, if a bucket was full of utensils and one immersed them, they become sour. But he did not need to do immerse them, then the waters are not considered mingled, unless they mingle as much as the size of a water skin tube. There are 3 mikvahs, one containing 20 saw, one rainwater, one also containing 20 saw of rainwater, and the other containing 20 saw of drawn water. And one of drawn water is at the side. And 3 persons went down and immersed themselves therein, and the waters became mingled. The mikvahs are tahor, and those that immerse themselves in it are tahor. If one of drawn water was in the middle and 3 persons went down and immersed themselves therein, then the waters became mingled, the mikvahs as they were, and those that immersed themselves as they were. If a sponge or bucket contained 3 lugim of water and fell into a mikvah, it does not disqualify it because all it said was these lugim that fell in. 3 lugim fell in. If a chest or box was in the sea, one may not immerse anything in it unless it has a hole in the sides of a water skin tube. Rabbi Yehuda says, in the case of a large vessel, 4 tefachim; in the case of a small vessel, the greater part. If it was a sack or a basket, one may immerse things in a hat. However, it is because the water is mingled. In a place under a pipe, they do not disqualify a mikvah. One may even immerse them and lift them out of the usual way.
Oh, okay.
And
I just realized we went one Mishnah too far there. Sorry. Okay. Right.
cooling.
Yeah,
Olive,
go ahead.
olive.
Let's go.
If an animal labor and the fetus puts forth the fourth leg and drew it back, is permissible for eating. If it puts forth its head, though it drew it back, is regarded as having been born. If one cuts off part of the fetus or that is in a room, it's permissible for eating from the spleen or from the kidneys, and it's prohibited to be eaten. This is the general rule. Whatever is part of the body is prohibited.
Hold on. We're meant to be in Mishnah Gimel here, not Aleph.
I'm sorry,
We're starting from
Gimel,
Mishnah Gimel, yeah.
Gimel Aleph,
No, Daled Gimel.
Gimel. Okay, I don't even have that. I started Dalet Aleph.
Yeah.
If an animal is difficult labor and the fetus put forth his foreleg and drew it back, it's permissible for eating. If he puts forth his head, though he drew it back, is regarded as having been born. If one cuts off part of the fetus that is in a room,
Stop. You're in Aleph. We want to be in Gimel.
Gimel,
No, the same parak. Just move forward to Mishnayos.
if a fetus died in the womb of an animal, the shepherd watched
Yeah.
out his hand and touched it, whether it's a non-kosher animal or a kosher animal, it's tahor. Agili says if it's a non-kosher animal, it's tamei; if it's a kosher animal, it's tahor. If a fetus died within a woman's womb and the midwife stretched out her hand and touched it, the midwife is tamei for 7 days, and the woman is tahor until the fetus comes out. If an animal is in difficult labor and the fetus thus forced its foreleg, and one cut it off, and afterwards he slaughtered its mother, the flesh is tahor. If he slaughtered its mother and afterwards he cut it off, the flesh is regarded as touched the vela. These are the words of Meah, but the sages say it is regarded as having touched a slaughtered treifa. Just as we find in the case of the treifa that is slaughtered ridden as a kahor, so too should the slayer of an animal render the limb tahor. Replied Reb Meah, not so. If the sheeter of a treifa renders the tahor, the thing that is its own body should also render the tim la tahor. A thing which is not its own body, from where do we learn that slaughtering of treifa renders the tahor? A non-kosher animal is prohibited to be eaten. A treifa is offered prohibited, but just as a non-kosher animal cannot be rendered tahor by its slaughtering, so should a treifa not be rendered tahor by its slaughtering. Not so. If this can be said of a non-kosher animal which never had a time of fitness, and the same is said of a treifa which had a time of fitness. Take back what you brought. If it was born with treifa, how do we know it? Not so. If this can be said of a non-kosher animal whose entire species has no shkita, can the same be said of a treifa whose species has shkita? An 8th-month live birth of slaughtering does not render tahor because there is no slaughtering in its kind. Okay.
One more, yeah.
If one slaughters an animal and finds it in an 8th-month fetus, alive or dead, and a month fetus, he tears it open and takes out its blood. He finds a 9-month live fetus, he requires slaughtering, and is subject to the prohibition of and its offering. These are the words of Meah. But the comments say, the daughter of a mother renders it permissible. Reb Shimon Sheri says, even if it's 8 years old and is plowing in the field, the slaughtering of the mother is permissible. And if you tore her open and found it in a 9-month live fetus, it requires shkita because his mother was not slaughtered.
Okay, that's it. All right. Have a wonderful day.
Great day. Enjoy. And I will
Okay.
see you. Thank you.